One of the biggest things holding people back in jiu-jitsu is trying to define their game or trying to like pick a style, right? I think this is really detrimental because you have to realize that whatever your current knowledge level is at, you want to be higher than that. If you're a white belt and you want to be a black belt, you have to assume that someday you're going to have more knowledge than you do, right? So when you're trying to build a game, if you make a decision about what you want your game to look like when you're more advanced, it's always going to be from a position of lack of knowledge, right? So for example, if you never played spider guard before, you never played collar sleeve or berimbolo, because you've never played it, you don't really know how it functions. Like you don't know what it's like. So from a lower level position, when you haven't played the position, you may have bad ideas about what you think it's going to be like, right? Like if you asked a white belt, what do you want? What's your game? They may in their head, because they've seen a lot of highlight reels, be like, oh, I want to do all flying arm bars, right? But like that's not realistic. The longer you train, the more you realize, oh, well, you can't really build your game just off flying arm bars, right? Well, even if you're like at a higher level, if you're like a brown belt or even a black belt and you want to become a higher level black belt, you have to realize in the same way that that white belt like kind of lacks knowledge, so they can't make good decisions about what they want to be good at. It's the same way for us. Like what I think like a crab ride is like is actually quite different than it actually is when I start working it, right? So instead, I always urge people to try to have the mindset of just learning positions, almost like university or something, right? Just learn positions for the sake of learning positions. As you have more knowledge and you understand how each of these positions function, when you do normal rolling, your game will actually kind of naturally build itself. If you understand how a collar sleeve functions, you understand how a double sleeve functions, how X guard functions, how heel hooks function, then when you're rolling in that like in a natural way, you'll kind of feel, oh, this is actually available here because it's coming from a position of knowledge, right? So I really urge everyone to, whatever position it is, like try to take time to specific spar from different spots that are new to you so that you develop experience in those. And then you'll find when you're in normal roles that it actually appears to you more naturally. So instead of trying to seek out a game, instead seek out knowledge, seek out understanding of individual positions, and then it'll like naturally build itself. Also, another big thing with it is like you're going to hit a point of diminishing returns. Like let's say that you play spider guard all the time. You've had like 100 hours into playing spider guard, but you want to keep making it better and better and better. At some point, switching to a new guard, you're going to improve way faster at that because your knowledge gap is so much lower on that you're going to improve way faster. And often what I find is when you switch up the guards that you play for periods of time, you make kind of different connections or you see different patterns within one, and then you'll carry that over into the other, and it kind of stops kind of like a creative like writer's block, if you will, for your positions. Yeah, another thing is just like often like when people make a decision about a position they don't want to play, is that they're kind of doing that based off how they think that position is like. Like someone will look at a position like a berimbolo or spider guard or a single leg guard, and they'll think, oh, it's not my style because like I don't like to move like this. But because they don't play the position, they don't actually understand how it works. So I've had many times that I'm coaching like online clients and they want to work something like setup guard, and then I have them start with like double sleeve and they don't really want to do that. And then after working it for a few weeks, they feel really natural double sleeve. And then when we start working the position they really wanted to develop, it's actually quite a bit different than they imagined. They even prefer the first position, right? So always kind of question yourself when you're thinking that you know a particular game you want to play or don't want to play. And remember that because you don't understand the position itself, often it's not like you imagine it's going to be. Another aspect of like picking a new position is that it often makes jiu-jitsu exciting again. Sometimes you get into these cycles where you're playing the same positions all the time, and then like you can't figure out what the next step is. And when you switch position, it's kind of like a reboot. You're new again. It gives you an excuse to lose. Like if you're rolling with a lower belt that you normally beat, if you play a new position, you're probably going to lose some, but because you're working a new position, it kind of drops your ego and challenges you less, and then you make evolutions in it, right? And another big aspect with that is that as you know multiple guards, it's going to become easier and easier for you to start connecting things, right? A lot of the great attacks in jiu-jitsu come when you combine positions, right? When you just play one position, you play collar sleeve. If you're fighting an experienced opponent, it's easy for them to predict what you might do next in that guard, right? But if you play collar sleeve, double sleeve, and de la hiva, then you can be playing one of those positions and fast change one of your grips from like say double sleeve to collar sleeve, and suddenly you're in a completely new pattern and sequence that's hard for your opponent to predict. If you watch all of the best guard players in the world, they almost always have really good combinations of different guards rather than trying to stay stuck in one position. So I really urge you, whatever guards you play, even if it's like once or twice a week, just try to set out a day where you do some specific training from a position you would normally never play and just see what kind of results you get back. If you guys like this kind of video, please comment and let me me know other topics or questions you'd like to see covered in the future. Thanks, guys.